Just thank you for allowing me to come on your platform to just share this message. I want to impact people that may not know who we are or what we do because it is one of the only diseases that is 100%, I want to say fixable. Like once
Yeah.
you understand this, it is a progressive disease that can actually be stopped and reversed through education, application, and execution. And life gets so good once you stop numbing or sedating. And it doesn't have to be just the drugs or alcohol. If there's any area of life that you're struggling with and going, man, life would be different if I could just give this up. Like we're seeing a ton of young men and even young women addicted to porn and it's destroying relationships, like all sorts of stuff. So zero judgment zone. It's one of those things of going, human behavior seeks to sedate. That's one of the things that we get.
Welcome to Take Back My Brain with Laurie Hammer, where real healing starts in the brain. I'm Laurie, a functional nutritionist and mom who's walked the path from anxiety and burnout to clarity and calm. Each week, we're going to dive into brain-based tools like amino acid therapy, gut health, fasting, and faith to help you reclaim your energy, emotions, and sense of self. All right, everyone, welcome back to the podcast. So, a special treat for you today, and I want you to really think about this. What if we treated addiction not as a moral failure, but as an invitation to heal? So, today I have with me Mark Manderson, who is leading Pacific Shores Recovery in Newport Beach for like the last 25 years. And his mission is to remove the stigma from mental health and addictions. And so I cannot wait to have this conversation because you all know how passionate I am about mental health. So, Mark, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, it still blows my mind. We just hit quarter of a century this year. It's wild doing something that you love for a long time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So that kind of leads me into my first question. Like, how did this start for you and how have you sustained it so long? Because recovery centers are hard to sustain.
Well, very much so. I tell people it's not like I looked for this. I was recruited by the dude upstairs, but not in
Amen.
the typical way. Most people that are involved in recovery have a personal story, like they overcame the recovery or they overcame addiction, living in recovery. They're loud and proud, and they just help a ton of people.
Yeah.
When I was 8 years old, so my aunt suffered from addiction. She was, they called goofballs. She would mix heroin and meth together.
Ah,
And so back in the 80s, there really wasn't much other than, I think it was like Betty Ford and Hazleton. And so she went to rehab, got kicked out, and came to live with my mom. My mom, single mother, raising me and my younger daughter. And I had bunk beds, so Aunt Steffi got to live with me. It was the coolest thing. So she was the fun, outspoken aunt, the kid at heart. I mean, just so wild, but just in a really fun way. Like she really was a kid in an adult body, which was just so fun to be around as an 8 year old. But what had happened was I remember I came home one day and I walk in and Aunt Steffi is on the floor and not responding at all. And I'm sure my memory is skewed. I tend to have a lot of skewed memories, but the memory of what happened was there were thousands of pills all over. Like I could actually feel them underneath my feet as I walked up to her and I started shaking her. Like, hey, Aunt Steffi, why are you sleeping on the floor? Like, wake up. And her body was lifeless. She didn't wake up. And so I went and I grabbed my mom. My mom came and fortunately revived her,
wow.
but it created all sorts of trauma, which at the time I didn't even know. I guess one of my go-to coping mechanisms back then, it still is now, but I'm aware of it, is just stuff it. Like my daughter used to sing all the time, conceal, don't feel, for any frozen families out there. And so I stuffed it and all through high school, college, didn't even remember what happened. But going back to the story, so my mom ended up kicking her out because she had the pills there. It could have been my sister and me. And a few short months later, same thing happened, but there was nobody there to find her. So she actually did die of an overdose a few short months after. And so just by stuffing it down, I got really good at kind of putting on masks and just being who I thought everyone wanted to see. I was the happy kid from Southern California, the surfer, the fun guy, and didn't really understand the trauma and how deep it went until I was done with college. And
Wow.
then everything on the outside looked great. Had a job in commercial real estate, which back in the early 2000s in Orange County, it was a huge boom. Like it
Yeah.
was very hard to not make money. And I was miserable on the inside and actually became suicidal. And I couldn't figure out why. I'm like, I don't get it. I have everything. Life is great, but I was dying inside. And then through a ton of therapy, my parents actually put me in therapy at 6 when they divorced, and I didn't know you could stop. So I'm still in it.
Perfect.
I just keep leveling up. It's like a video game, but no, it's so helpful. And fortunately, I had a few really good therapists that helped uncover this repressed memory. And once I started to look at it, I thought, oh my gosh, I had no idea that affected me. I just kind of thought addiction affects only the individual.
Right.
And so as I started getting more educated on it, my story was not that unique. Hearing of kids, family members, spouses, parents, and I thought, there's got to be a different way. And so as I started looking into it, we just started wanting to help people. And then we just kind of grew by mistake. Like that's why I say like I was recruited. Like if you look at like who's the least qualified person to do something like this, I'm there, both hands up. Like there's no way I could be used for something like this. But through just trial and error and just I think of just being really empathetic and wanting to better understand what drives the symptoms of what we see as addiction. That's what led to going, wow, it's not really about the drug or the alcohol. It's about what's underneath that core, we call it the core lie, but the core issue that shows up as a symptom. And most people just treat the symptom, but it's rinse repeat. And so I just started asking a ton of questions. I've never been afraid of looking dumb. And so just by asking questions of, why did you do this? You got help. You went to rehab. Explain to me this. And I just started finding patterns after probably 5 to 10 years of doing this and said, I think we might be able to help a little bit different than a lot of places out there. And so it took a complete different, more holistic approach where we do combine the clinical, but also with the holistic side. And we started getting really good results. And just by asking questions of how can we better serve to really get to the core of this, that it's led to everything from ended up writing a book called The Recovery Way that has helped a lot of people not even need to go to treatment, but identify and expose the core lie and do work on their own. I created an app back in 2018 that we use in-house and people from all over the world use it. So it's just a passion to want to help people of understanding we create our own pain. That part sucks, but at the same time, when we identify and understand that, that means we can create our own healing and pleasure as we start to understand the process. So that was my long-winded answer to how I got involved.
Wow, I love it. I love it. And I love the different approach that you guys take there. Can you kind of unravel what that holistic approach is combined with everything else that you do?
Yeah, I'm a pot little magic box on how we cure addiction in one answer. No, there's no box. I feel like most people think
There's
that's
no
like
box, right?
just tell me the one answer because everything's black and white. So there's a lot of depth to that question, so I appreciate it. I don't want to sound all philosophical, but one of the things is once we recognize the life we desire is hiding behind the pain that we've been avoiding, that helps give us permission to actually go to the depths of the things that we've been fearing the most, knowing that we can go through this. And so we have a wonderful team here from psychiatrists to doctors to therapists to case managers to certified staff. We've got a whole team that comes together to help create a safe space. Because one of the questions I love asking clients, and it blew my mind when I first started asking this, is when's the last time you truly felt safe? And so many times people come in and go, I don't know if I ever have. Like, and I had a great childhood, but no one has ever asked me that question. And so one of the things we focus on is to really make sure the person is safe so we can start stripping away all the armor that we've put on to protect ourselves to really get to that core issue. And then once a person feels safe enough to be seen, that's where we can become vulnerable, expose the core lie, do the work, and then they're kind of like, I don't have to go around hiding this pain anymore. So by facing the pain, it sets you free.
Yeah, that isn't that true for all of us, not just addicts?
Yeah, well, so here's a little side note. Now, there's a continuum of addiction, but if you look at it, all undesired behavior is some form of addiction. And
That
so
was
when we
my
look
next
at it,
question for you. Yeah.
well, yeah, well, not to discount like what
Yeah.
are you talking about? I'm a hardcore heroin and cocaine addict. Like you're telling me, I'm like, no, I do agree with that. We heard someone say,
Yeah.
I'm addicted to food, and you just don't know what it's like, and it got into a huge altercation. But there's this continuum. So when I understand if any behavior I'm finding myself involved in that I don't want to do, you can consider that's a very loose definition of addiction. And then we can look at, well, what are the consequences coming from that? But once we start to identify this is undesired behavior that's providing consequences in my life, what is the unmet need? So that's the other part that we look for is it's always a protection mechanism. Like I've never met a person that in high school and college said, I want to be an addict when I grow up. I have yet to
Right.
meet one. It's the
Nobody
exact
says
opposite.
yes.
Yet we still find ourselves going to this fast, reliable source to sedate and to numb when I don't know how to actually, and this part scares people, but how to sit in the pocket of pain, to actually provide the space to say, okay, I know you're not going to kill me, even though it feels like it, but let's create some space to sit in this, to see what is it you're trying to tell me. And once we start having that different dialogue, that's when life begins to change.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. You sitting in that pocket of pain is, I think, one of the most difficult things to do, right? Because nobody wants
Hmm.
to feel pain physically, emotionally, spiritually, none of that. I know when I was deep in my eating disorder, that's what I did. I numbed myself with food. I binged and purged all the time because I didn't know how to deal with life outside of that. And I remember after I did, outpatient recovery stuff, like I just bawled and bawled and bawled because like I don't know how to deal with life
Hmm.
outside of this, behavior that I have to be able to sit in that pain. And I feel because most of the people that I deal with have mental health issues or at least anxiety, depression, all those things. There's always that underlying pain that we haven't dealt with. And I feel like that's why we have such this medication epidemic because we're always trying to put out everything. And
We're
then
trying to fix everything.
trying to fix it. We're trying to like mask it, numb it, everything. And then I see a lot of people, go from these meds to more hardcore addictions or, it just it kind of breaks my heart, Mark, because we've set up our society kind of for addiction in some instances.
Well, yeah, the immediate gratification, the constant dopamine hits, it
Yeah.
actually, I mean, the science shows it rewires the brain. So when a person's struggling, it's not like, oh, just get some more willpower or well, I mean, we can even go down that rabbit hole, but a lot of the times it's understanding my brain has actually been wired this way by society, by the way I was raised. So number one, it is, I don't want to say get out of jail free card, but when I can take the pressure off of like I'm broken and say,
Yep.
okay, I've been wired this way. The neat thing is I didn't know what I didn't know. Now that I'm starting to know, I can get more educated to find out how do we begin to rewire the brain because it's not always difficult. The beginning it is. I heard someone share this on gosh, probably a couple of months ago. Like, the saying, the truth will set you free. I'm like, yeah, I'm aware of the book that came out of. The problem is the truth will set you free, but it's going to ruin your day at first. And I'm like, that's so true because the illusion of I have a sense of control, or I'll even call it a delusion of trying to control things. That's where the sedation, the numbing out comes in. It kind of re-edifies that I don't have to deal with this. I can still control this. And once we start to understand that, we go, no, actually, it's a shortcut paved to hell,
Right.
unfortunately. And the pain just keeps magnifying. So as I begin to understand that, that is where I can start making the conscious decision to say, okay, I've rewired this. So this is where the pull is, the emotional gravity. But that means as I start getting, so one of the things we do is environment, community, connection. Once we get that, now we create that safety to say it's going to take a lot of work up front, but once I start doing the work, the brain will start making these new neural pathways. And these part that we've reinforced will actually start to kind of grow like little weeds, if you will. And it won't be as fast to go there. And over time, we start finding this becomes the new emotional gravity and the pull. But one of the biggest keys to teaching clients is how to confront that internal narrative. And so one of the things that we do is we ask questions. The type of questions we ask provides the type of answers in our life, creates the quality of our life. So even just simple questions such as anytime there's this internal narrative that is either I wouldn't say harming me, but getting kind of loud or uncomfortable, it's, well, is this true? I used to never ask that. I assumed
Such a good
everything
question.
my internal narrative said was, this is true, this is fact, you can't question it. And because I feel it, that creates the truth. I had no idea I was falsifying my own truth because I would feel something and think that's how the world viewed it.
Hmm.
Many times
Right.
I was alone in my misery. Everybody else is
Right.
having a great time. And I'm like, why does my reality suck and nobody else around here does? And so that's one question. Is this true? Another one is, well, what are the facts that I am using to base this meaning that I've attached to this emotion? So once we start learning how to observe emotions, it starts to change the game. Like I used to run from my depression. Like I shared earlier, I was a beautiful stuffer. I could stuff like no other. The problem is there's a capacity for everything until it explodes. Nobody likes being the exploder. I was fine
No.
being the stuffer.
Yeah.
And it was never the stranger across the street that I exploded on. It was my wife, my kids, my family. It was the people I cared the most about. Damn it.
I know. I hear you. I hear
And
you.
so as we start giving that part of us a voice and we learn to observe it instead of basically take it as true, this is the part that it took a while, but I used to misdiagnose and label my depression as negative, thinking stuff it, ignore it. And I don't know if you experience this. I've got two kids, but when they're young, the more you ignore them, the louder they get. It's the weirdest
That
thing.
is true. Yes. It's amazing how that happens.
Yes, but when you sit there and you say, "Sweetie, I love you. Tell
Hmm.
me what's going on." They will open up and share the highlights of the day, the lowlights, what they hate, what they love, all in the same sentence. And when you just sit there free from judgment or evaluating whether they're right or wrong and just being there and being present, it's amazing the connection you can create. So I
Mm.
started asking myself, what if I did this with my depression? And it was crazy at how it no longer, I thought it wanted to kill me. It just wanted to be seen, to be heard, to feel safe. And that was the part that really led me in my journey of overcoming the suicidal ideation and depression. And once I started learning this, I started sharing it with other people, going like, I don't know, like I've been in therapy my whole life. Nobody's taught me this. Like, try it. And then it started working. And the biggest thing was our emotions just want a seat at the table, not just the ones we label good, but the ones we label bad. So once we remove the labels and say, everybody's welcome to my table, I built this table, come on in anytime you want, it is so freeing.
Yeah. So freeing. When you're dealing with people, at your recovery center, I think we have a stigma around addiction and people who, struggle with addiction. So when people are coming there, they come with all these feelings, all these labels, all these things to them, but that's not who they are. That's not who God created them to be. So when you're dealing with them, how do you help them kind of unwind or unravel that deep core identity? It,
Well,
that
and such a great way you put it. I was going to even say that. I was going to say, well, the first thing we got to do the work is most people hold beliefs as their identity. And so
Right.
if you challenge a belief or identity, they go down swinging. But if we can say we can put this identity back on at any time, but just for giggles, let's take this identity and just put it out here, and then let's talk about it. And what happens is once I get this removed, it's no longer I'm broken. It's, oh, this is what is continually driving my decision making process. So we pull it out to deal with it. And then we say, okay, now what started driving this? And that's where we expose what we call the core lie. And then when we
Right.
look at that, we go, oh my gosh. So our current coping mechanisms, is it helping? And initially, the answer is always yes. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it.
Right.
So when we look at it, say, yes, it works. Okay, great. It's the two S's. The other one is it sustainable? So does it work at actually doing it? Yes, it does. Now, is it sustainable? No, actually, it's a progressive disease. It actually gets a lot worse as time goes on. So when we look at it from a sustainable lens, we can say, okay, this might not be the best way to cope. It's still there. We can always go back to it. Let's look at some other ways. Might take a little bit more work up front, but let's look at the sustainability and the dividends on the back end. And that's where it starts to kind of crack the mind a little bit. Is where we get the breakthroughs of like, wait, so I'm not an addict. I'm not a bad person. No, you found actually you're a brilliant person. You found a fantastic way that is fast and cheap and quick to get the results you're wanting. We just didn't look at the full picture. So once we start doing that, that's how we're able to remove the label, the belief, the identity to say, I just didn't know. And when I don't know, I don't know. Now that I know, I can make a different decision.
I love that. And that's just true for all of us. Just taking
Hmm.
those beliefs and setting them aside and figuring out what's beneath them. What are some myths about addiction that you wish people knew and would how they would view people that struggle with addiction?
Yeah, one of the biggest myths that I love busting is that it means a person's broken or less than or something's wrong with them. We've had clients come through these doors that had some of the most beautiful childhoods growing up.
Mm.
We've had people that had horrific childhoods growing up and both equally addicted to very similar substances. So I think one of the misnomers is they must have had a ton of issues or childhood trauma. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not, but we tend to assume here is the peg that everybody's going to fit into that falls in this category. I've seen, I mean, we've had, because we're in Orange County, we've had celebrities come through here, we've had pro athletes come through here, we've had wonderful moms on the PTA come through here. We've had doctors from the hospital across the street come through here. Um, I mean, it is one of the most non-biased, non-judgmental ailments. It will hit anybody. And so of knowing that everybody that is suffering with addiction is somebody else's child, can be somebody else's brother or sister or friend. Unfortunately, when we look at the addiction, we think of the homeless person or we think of all the negative, but we tend to discount and forget they were a kid that had the pictures on the refrigerator at one point. They were the kids laughing and having fun and playing with our kids or other people's kids at some point. So when
Yeah.
I can start to link in the human nature process of it, it helps remove some of that judgment of I am different.
I love that. Anything else you want people to know?
That it can be overcome. I think one of the biggest misnomers, like we see it all the time here, when there's an intervention and the family says, like, this is it. And so the person comes in at first kind of under false pretenses, like, well, I'm just here for the family. I got to get back. I got my job. I got my dog. I got to take care of all this stuff. And one of the things that we have to do is sit down and say, well wait a minute. Let's hit pause for a moment, because we tend to undercut the seriousness of this disease. It's a brain disease. So, like, if you think about it, if you went to a doctor and a doctor said, you've got cancer, it's stage 4, we, we're going to be aggressive with the treatment, but without treatment, you're looking at 3 to 4 months max to live. I don't think a single person goes, well, hold on, doc. I got to take care of my dog. I got to go take care of this. I got to enroll for school. Like, I got
Right.
all that. When it's put into that type of realm, like cancer, it's whatever it takes. I will live at the hospital. You tell me, we will fight this thing together. It's all in. I would love to see more people understand that with addiction, to say, I'm going to fight now to survive and then thrive. Then I can go back to everything else, because now it's one of the only diseases that once you're diagnosed with it, it's not just trying to get back to normal. It's you actually become a better person through it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. How do you deal with the recovery aspect of, like, when they go back to their families, they go back to their job? How do you bring the family in, their community into this recovery
Yeah,
process?
so it starts from day one. A lot of people think I go to rehab or treatment, I get fixed, and then I go home, and it's kind of like I don't want to misdirect anybody, but I really want to be transparent of when you're in treatment or rehab, that's just the start. That's like you're building the foundation in full immersion. The work really starts once you leave these super safe walls and go back to the world that you started using it in the first place. So one of the things we talk about is environment, connection. I teach what's called the 5 foundational freedoms. It's in the book, The Recovery Way. But one of the big ones is family and friends, and making sure that they are aware. So we have a 6-week online program that we highly encourage, kind of like, it's not a choice, it's a choice, but it's not a choice. Like,
Yeah.
make sure you
Make sure you
participate.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a 6-week online course. And what it does is it helps with boundaries and codependency, because a lot of the times the family wanting to help is, unbeknownst to them, made some decisions or engaged in some behaviors that actually negatively reinforce the using. And again, not intentionally. So we
Right.
start to pull the sheets off and start to uncover that. And then we also educate them on signs to look for and different things. But so the idea is while their loved one is here for 90 days, they're going through the 6-week process themselves. So they're doing their work in healing. Their loved ones with us doing their work in healing. And then towards the end, they come together, they start working together, and then we set a plan up for when they go home. And then we have a online virtual program that we actually started. We were lucky enough to start before the whole COVID thing happened. Back in 2019 is when we just happened to see some stuff happen. And so we launched it. It worked great. And then when 2020 hit, we're like, we're already doing this. This is great. And then that helps them really, really reintegrate back into the real world on the world's terms with the foundation that they built while they were here.
That's amazing. 'Cause I can imagine it's just hard.
It's one of the most difficult things.
Yeah, watching, like, my own family members, like, there's a lot of addiction on both sides, and just watching them come home and kind of fail. I even hate to say the word fail. It's just old habits came back, and there wasn't enough foundation for them to overcome what they needed to overcome, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's one of the analogies I'll use with a lot of the younger guys that come through the program is is okay. So you were working before. What would happen if you stopped working for a month and then you showed up on payday? What would your boss say? And almost always are like, my boss would say, get out of here. I'm like, yeah, we got to use the same mindset for us. This is why, and I'm referencing the book a lot because a lot of the work we do comes
Hmm.
from the book, but it's called First Fruits. If I'm not taking care of myself, we call it healthy selfish. If I'm not doing the work today, I'm not guaranteed the results. In fact, by not doing the work, I'm guaranteed to not get the results. So most people will do the work, get the results, stop doing the work that got them the results, and then wonder why they no longer have the results. So
Right.
it's one of those things of like my dentist used to say, Mark, you don't think how to brush the teeth that you want to keep. Only floss the teeth you want to keep. Other than that, you don't have to brush or floss at all. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess so. So you better
Right.
believe I brush and floss every single day. Multiple times a day I brush.
Right. Right. We want to keep those pearly whites.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so curious. What's your take on the opiate crisis and everything that's
Oh my
going on
gosh.
right now?
So the game it's interesting because it seems to change every once in a while. So I know the opioid crisis back when I was a kid, high school, college, it was just basically mainly the heroin. Now with fentanyl coming out, so one of the things that we're seeing, and this is the sad part, it's so frustrating. And then now with kratom, the seven wow is
I
I won't
just
get
heard about that. So,
yeah, I'm not going to get into it, but I think it's like 20 times more potent than morphine, and you can buy it at a smoke shop. I'm working with a team trying to get it banned here in Orange County. They've been successful in some of the areas, but so you ask, what are my thoughts on it? Back in the day, and I don't condone using or trying things, but back in the day, you could experiment, and it was like you had a second, third, fourth, fifth chance to be like, oh crap, I need to get my things together, and I need to find different ways. Nowadays, they're finding fentanyl laced in everything from Xanax even on the street to marijuana to ecstasy. It's insane. They're cutting it because it's so cheap. So we're seeing a lot of people that think I got one more relapse and then they don't come back from it. So the stakes are so much higher because you have no idea, and the littlest amount can send you into cardiac arrest. I mean, it just stops.
it's disheartening. What do you think about the policies that are going on right now? Do you find any of them encouraging?
You know, I so what's interesting is that when you ask me what I think about the policies, the first thing that came up is when my wife and I got married, we just hit 17 years. We made a decision to stop watching the news because we thought, is it really going to affect the way that we live? And it did a lot more than we thought and anticipated. We're actually happier. We're more grateful. So when it
Right.
comes, so when it comes to policies, I sat on a nonprofit board for a couple of years, really trying to push for some of these things in the human trafficking area. I was more on the addiction side, and it was an uphill battle. And you'd see or hear of a bill going through, and it sounded like it was going to be something, but something else was connected to it. So I just said, I don't want to do politics. I This might sound really bad. I don't care what the policies are. I want to address the core issue that whether it's legal or illegal, we can help that person heal. Because I mean, I've visited Amsterdam, but they've got homeless over there. They've got drug issues just like we do here. And what's legal over there is not legal here. So I'm just kind of like,
Yeah.
I think human nature is whether it's legal or illegal, if a person wants to do something, they're going to find a way. If you don't address the core issue, they're going to continue to struggle. If you do address the core issue, it doesn't matter to them if it's legal or illegal. They say this no longer aligns with what I'm after. I am wanting to build a life that I don't ever want to sedate or retire from. And so when it comes to policies, I don't know. Maybe it's a negative way to look at it, but that's where I
No,
am, at least in this season.
yeah, we rarely watch the news either. So life is way better without it. So, and
I found if I need to hear something, somebody tells me like we were on the oh gosh, the tsunami watch. And someone's
oh,
like, "Are you aware of what's going on?" I'm like, "No, but I'm sure you'll tell me. We're on tsunami watch." I'm like, "Oh, okay. So what are you doing different?" Well, just to be aware we might have to leave. Oh, okay. My
okay,
life didn't change.
right. One time my mom said to me, because I just don't watch the news, and she was a CNN junkie, and she goes, "How do you know what to pray for if you don't watch the news?" I said, "Well, I'm pretty sure the Holy Spirit will tell me what I need to pray for, and most of that stuff isn't going to matter anyway because they don't they don't care, so
Yeah.
it's fine."
I
Anyway,
pray for a little bit more selfish stuff these days for me
yeah,
and the clients and our team. So I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe it'll expand past my direct impact, but for right now, it's pretty darn selfish of just wanting
Well,
to help those in my direct reach.
right. And that's just a ripple effect. It ripples out all over the world, Mark, and everything that you're doing. So, for someone who's listening that they're struggling themselves or they have a loved one who's struggling, what would you tell them to do for the first step?
Well, I would definitely want more context because struggling could be different for different people. So I know one of the things I put this together a little while ago, and it seems to be helping a lot. So I'm giving it out to any podcast I'm on. If you want to send it to your listeners, all they need to do is first step they can follow me on Instagram. My handle is at Pacific Shores Recovery. Then just they click follow DM habits. And basically what it is it goes down and defines some of the daily, I don't want to say daily duties. That sounds like a negative, but basically daily things that we have seen after doing this for a quarter of a century of people that changed just their daily decisions and the things that they do that become habits that create a life no longer tied to addiction, more recovery based, but just it expands everything. And so it's on a Google document. I've got videos in there with some educational stuff, but it's a wonderful resource. So they can just DM me habits and I'll send it to them. At a very, very surface level, it would be just reach out to somebody, to someone, and just start the conversation. Usually that's the most difficult part because, again, that internal narrative of all the negative self-talk and the guilt and the shame and all the crap that our brain comes up with. The first step is just call and reach out and let someone know. I think I might have a problem, or my loved one might have a problem, or I
Yeah.
don't even know what to do. I want to open a dialogue to get more educated on this.
Yeah, I love that. There, you were just mentioning, daily decisions, daily habits, and you talk a lot about gratitude. So I want to end with this. How important are those daily habits and that daily gratitude in recovery?
And we're going to expand even outside of recovery
Yeah.
because what is so incredible is we create our reality with our daily decisions. So if I'm not absolutely in love with certain aspects of life, not to discount, but all I got to do is look back behind and say, what were the daily decisions that led to this? And then the cool thing is success, just like anything else, leaves clues. And so there's going to be clues if it is a well-lived life, but there's also going to be clues if it's a very painful life. And as we start looking at our daily decisions, it stacks up over time. Most people will try to look forward and say, I want that, and not understand that today is the basically culmination of everything from all the past decisions that have been made up to today. And so that's why breaking down over the five foundational freedoms, one of them is very simple is fitness, simple for health. If a
Mhm.
person's saying, I want to have energy, I want a clear mind, clear head, like I just want to feel different. All we got to do is look back to say, what have been your daily decisions that led you to where you are? And then what would be the new daily decisions, the new habits, the new behaviors that would lead you to the person that you're wanting to become? And nowadays, you don't have to pay for education. So many people say it's an education issue. That ended when freaking Google came online and the internet happened, and then
Right.
ChatGPT totally changed the game.
Totally changed the game.
So it's no longer education. You can get educated for free on anything. It comes down to application and execution.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Mark, thank you. Thank you for your mission. Thank you for everything that you're doing. I know this is going to bless a lot of people. So I know everyone listening, you know somebody who needs to hear this. So make sure you share this because it can save somebody's life, change their life, change your life. God has a big plan for each of us. So make sure you're paying attention to what that might be. So, Mark, thank you. Is there anything else you want to leave the listeners with?
Just thank you for allowing me to come on your platform to just share this message. I want to impact people that may not know who we are or what we do because it is one of the only diseases that is 100%, I want to say fixable. Like once
Yeah.
you understand this, it is a progressive disease that can actually be stopped and reversed through education, application, and execution. And life gets so good once you stop numbing or sedating. And it doesn't have to be just the drugs or alcohol. If there's any area of life that you're struggling with and going, man, life would be different if I could just give this up. Like we're seeing a ton of young men and even young women addicted to porn and it's destroying relationships, like all sorts of stuff. So zero judgment zone. It's one of those things of going, human behavior seeks to sedate. That's one of the things that we get into the middle of to say, I'm going to consciously choose a different path. And through daily direction and actions, we can change that.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless your recovery center. And thank everyone for listening. We'll see you in the next episode.
Appreciate you, Laurie.
Thanks. Thanks for listening to Take Back My Brain. If today's episode helped you connect with hope or direction, I want you to follow the show, leave us a review, and share it with someone who needs it. And if you're ready to start your own healing journey, explore our courses and our coaching programs at lauriehammer.com/store. So until next time, remember, you cannot medicate away a nutrient deficiency, and healing your brain isn't just possible, it's powerful.